Welcome everybody at the new episode of the Mythopedia podcast. My name is Twan, also known as iKipsaté. And today I have a special guest with me, Donny. Welcome in the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you. Super special, of course, Twan. My name is Donny Stumpel. I'm 34 years old, as for now, if you watch this recording. I've been active in, I would say, esports since 2015. So that is
almost 10
9
years.
years. So almost 10 years. And what I focus on with Next Level Esports is mainly the support of esports coaches. Because I found that, there's a lot to gain in that area, also through my own personal experience. So that's why I built Next Level Esports, and I do that. Most of the things that I do is internationally. I wish I could, do it fully focus on the Netherlands, but the market is a little bit too small here. So. I'm urged to expand international, but it's going well. And next to supporting esports coach, I'm also coordinating the esports talent center here in the Netherlands, where a couple of esports teams that has talented players who are not, or some have, but most of them are at the edge, getting their first contract, and we're trying to help them with some extra guidance and everything. To holistically help them, make that next step in their career. That is a thing. And also on the side, I'm also involved with education, building esports coach and trainer programs, and sometimes doing guest lectures or workshops. So that's basically the things that I do. Yeah.
All right, really cool. And you mentioned your experience that you've gained through the years, and that's the reason why you started with Next Level Esports. But if we then look at your experience, with gaming and or esports, what was your first experience?
When it was gaming, it was just like my dad. He was one of the first people in the 90s that got a PC. And with the PC, you had these floppy disks, and on those floppy disks, you had Just Jackrabbit, Doom, the shoot 'em up game, Raptor, and it was super fun. So he played it, and I, as a young kid, watched him play, and then as I grew older, I got to play as well. So that was the moment my love for gaming basically. Came where it came from. And in terms of esports, I think the first initial things that I saw was competitive was with World of Warcraft, with arena matches, which I played. So that was really interesting to watch, because you're involved there, you're watching the big players play. But later on, I was playing a different game, one of the not the first MOBAs, but one of the first. It doesn't exist right now, but it's called what was it? HON, Heroes of Newerth. So it's very similar to Dota, with the map layout and with the shop and with the couriers and also the heroes or champions. But it was before Dota 2 and before League of Legends even. And I got to play it with a couple of friends, and then there were also esports, and we even hanged out, we sometimes at their house, and then sometimes at my house, just to watch the esports competitive game. So that was a lot of fun. So I was already, hooked on that. And then League of Legends came, more people played that. I started from season 2. And then
that's 2012-ish, something like that, I guess.
I believe so. It could be, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Something around that time, probably. And I started playing League of Legends, and wasn't that particularly good or something. I was Platinum 2 at that point, and I was still studying. And at that point of time, I saw a flyer when I was studying at the school that I was doing my study as a teacher. And I saw the flyer, and there's like a League of Legends, a student club, Dorans. What is that? So I checked it out one night, and I was immediately hooked. And I was the only crazy guy who didn't have a laptop, but I brought my whole PC every Wednesday night there. And yeah, that's basically where I was actively involved as a player in esports. Collegiate esports, not super fancy or anything, but it was a lot of fun, and I immediately saw the potential.
Yeah, really cool. For those who doesn't know Dorans, what is Dorans exactly?
Yeah, it's one of the very first collegiate esports clubs in the Netherlands. So I believe they started in 2015 initially, and I was one of the players that initially signed up to join them. I was one of the first couple. I believe it's still in the same place,
right?
And everything. Yeah, Nijmegen, yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And you started your first like real esports experience maybe as a player then, in League of Legends, right?
Yeah, you can say, yeah.
And what was then the moment that you started thinking about the whole coaching process? Was it during your time as a player, or how did that evolve?
Yeah, well, when I will tell the story. So when I joined Dorans, you had to fill in like a Google Forms, and it was like, oh, do you want to have coaching as well? Like, how ambitious are you? And I was pretty ambitious. I would just want to improve. I want to have a lot of fun. I really wanted to experience a full esports experience, just like with Legends I saw in Heroes of New Earth and World of Warcraft, and also League of Legends. So I was like, yeah, I'm down to take it seriously, because sometimes taking things seriously is a lot of fun, at least for me. Yeah. And I was anticipating a coach, but they had to find one for our team. So I was really anticipating it weeks and weeks and weeks, and finally the day came. Right, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be so amazing. It's gonna be a coach to bring the team together. You're gonna have, amazing VOD reviews, and it's gonna be very detailed and positive and motivated. Just like the image that I had in my mind, how a professional football coach would be.
Yeah.
So I had all these associations. So the day came, finally the coach, and he's a really, really fun and great guy. But for me, the experience in terms of coaching was, severely lacking. It's not like his fault or anything. He really tried his best because, it was just like his free time as well to help us out. So, of course, he gave tips, and yes, that helped, but it wasn't the experience that I expected. So I felt so gutted, like, is this it? I was really hoping for a different, esports experience together with the coach. And that got me thinking. So initially, because, I was studying for a teacher, I already did another former education before that, also in the direction of teaching. Yeah. So currently I have like 10 years of experience being a teacher. So what does that say about me? That I am interested in how people work, how they get motivated, how do they learn, how can you structure an environment where there's more than one single person involved, how do you structure whole days, how do you organize, how do you manage people, classes, learning, differentiate everything. So that already interests me. Plus, me as a person always was looking at from a young age already, like, why do people behave like they behave? Why is someone so triggered by the same situation and someone else is not? Why does someone has so much fantasy and the other one is just super grounded to earth? What the hell is going on? So all of these things that combined, and I was like, oh, if there was a coach who was also interested into that and knew how to do it, how much value that could bring. So after the initial season, I ended it. I quickly shifted to like, hey, let me try coaching. It's just like an egotistical thing to say, but just like, yeah, I think I can do the job better.
And that was after the first season as a player then? So you played for one season as a player, and then you start thinking about, because your experience as a teacher, you started thinking about coaching yourself?
Yeah, because there was a much more drive, or where I felt like I could contribute value, right, to the club. So initially I had like a coach document with like ideas and everything, because they had some similar ideas that they shared, but it wasn't written down or anything. So it was just like from my own experience how I believed coaching should be done, or some things, so other new coaches can also help. So I was already in that point subconsciously helping other coaches, but I just want to help the club grow and professionalize in that way.
Yeah, and what was then the moment that you realized you wanted to take the step, instead of coaching yourself, to helping other coaches?
Yeah. So how that came to fruition is basically when I felt like, hey, I think I can do this better, provide a different experience for the players. I became a coach, and I believe, from my perspective, it went better, it went well. However, I still felt like, hey, I'm missing some skills, I'm missing insight. How can I motivate these people? How can I really get to them, and really change behavior that I saw? So what I did is I basically looked far and wide, first in the Netherlands, then Europe, then the world, and Lord and behold, there was no esports coaching program, nothing to educate myself, not even a League of Legends coach program or something on technical stuff or anything. I could not find anything. So that was really frustrating, because that was the moment I started buying books from traditional sports, and I was like, okay, of course I can take those ideas, but it's an online environment. It's different, comparing to football, where you can just like blow your whistle and everyone, just stand still. It's similar to pause, but it's not the same, right? I don't have to explain it to the viewers, but they understand it's not the same. So even though it's same, but different, I need to develop different things and everything. So after months, or I believe even it took a year or something after that, because I started Next Level Esports in 2018. So that's 3 years after I started indoor runs. Yeah. Because I was just like, oh, when is someone doing this? I'm Googling every month, like, is someone doing this? But it didn't came. And then it just clicked, and because I was laying awake, bathing in my sweat every single night about the idea, like, okay, if no one's gonna do it, maybe this is my calling, where I can contribute to the world of esports, or the world in general, to provide value and to really take the charge in this regard. So that's where the journey basically started.
All right, that's cool. I mean, if you think that that's your calling, it's really great to actually start working on it. I mean, at least I can imagine that is. And if you look back then at the years, because you just mentioned you started in 2018, we're now in 2024. What is the biggest challenge you faced during these years?
The biggest challenge, I think the biggest challenge is basically myself. Like, maybe it's a little bit of a deep or complex answer, or maybe not, I don't know. But your biggest challenge is yourself overcoming your doubts, because I had no one basically to compare myself to, rather than only traditional sports. But all of that education and all of the things that I saw, I was just not fully seeing that one-on-one apply in esports. So you doubt yourself, like, hey, I have these ideas, but do they work in esports? How can I test them? How can I apply them? How can I get that feedback that if I design something new, that it actually works? Yeah. Right? That because people design beautiful things all the time, but the market doesn't want it, the people don't want to use it, and that's that's a pity. Yeah. So I had to challenge myself in terms of those doubts, and keep pressing on and being very patient. Sometimes it's very difficult to try something and to keep building and building and building until you get some results. But I had my my strategy laid out. So yeah.
All right. All right. And if you then look back at you started thinking, designing things, and you said I could not test it to anyone. But how did the process go to from where you started to where you are right now? Because how could you actually start tracking your like your programs? How could you test it to coaches or other people?
Yeah. Is to try it yourself. So I've worked with alongside with different programs and everything. And if I design something new or that hasn't been done, right, I have to try it myself, because if it doesn't work, I'm just like building how do you say that, like a castle in the clouds, right? You cannot really use it. So I started with first, studying, developing myself, sketching out my ideas.
Yeah.
Taking courses, reading a lot of books, taking more courses, taking more certifications and everything. And then basically combining those things to what I saw fit for esports. And then I basically knocked on the door, and that is my initial gateway, or has been to the professional side of esports, getting paid and everything. And it's just like knocking on people's doors, like, hey, before I was producing basically workshops or getting invited, even doing for free, I collected problems, right? So I collected like 20 problems. I interviewed everyone, I tackled the networking at the same time. I had the chance to talk to them, get their problems, and then I basically built those cases out in terms of answers that are practical, that they can actually implement the same day. That was my goal. And after a while, I did those things and with players and people, and I gave them back, and they were, getting a lot of positive response. And from the initial conversation of like, yeah, this helped me. And I was like, good. Then I could go to the esports teams like, hey, I already have a couple of players, or people around the scene, I know them. And then can I do a workshop for you? And then my strategy was, if my stuff actually works, right? Because I already provided value, and now I'm going to provide even more value with workshops and boot camps and everything. They will call me back within 6 and 12 months. If they don't, basically I will, look for something else or quit or take a different direction. And yes, after like 5, 6, 7 months, people started to DM me back like, hey, do you remember you gave a workshop or you were at the bootcamp? It really helped us as a team. It helped me personally. Can you do this again? But now those players or, managers or people were at different organizations. And that was the first basically paycheck that I could take, because I want to do it, but, now you got to pay. And they were willing to pay. So that
must have been a really good feeling. I mean, because you started working on like such a big project, I would say. And from the moment you started like doing those workshops for free then, and then getting the DMs back and like, okay, I know what I did was right. I mean, that must have been a really good feeling.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. That was actually the initial part. So the second part is through those paid workshops, boot camps and everything, I find a connection with like professional esports organizations. So the first one I joined was MCon. So I did that, and afterwards while I was in MCon and also was doing with Thrill back then, and Sector 1 also did like workshops. All those names don't exist anymore except for MCon, right? And then I worked a long time because I had very good results with the Fuse kits back then. They were having a lot of troubles with their players. They could not align, even though the talent ceiling was like sky high. The potential was way up there. And I came in, and after a couple of workshops and conversations, they basically went champions. And then they invited me to do it for the CSGO team. They were a mess as well. I came in, they became champions. So they were going from the national stage to the European stage. And after that, I basically, got a nice performance coaching gig for Lowland Lions.
Mm-hmm.
They transferred back for roughly a year, a little bit longer. So that was the whole thing around that. And then COVID came and plans that we had. So there were a lot of lessons learned, but also a lot of good stuff to look back.
And you mentioned like you gained like 20 problems from players, coaches, or esports organizations. And if you could name 3 of the problems, maybe the most heard problems, what are they?
So there was a really a common factor among all of them. So one of the problems that I remember was in between the games, I don't know how to really inspire them or motivate them. How can I present myself and to present myself as a motivational speaker just for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I looked and, far and wide on the internet and books, and then came with basically practical tips how to build an inspirational speech specifically for their players and everything that I gave. The other one was, for example, there was a coaching staff and they could not basically align, or they also felt misaligned. How can I work better with them? How can I communicate better with them? How can I structure the communication between each other? Players having conflicts between another. How can I present my ideas better towards this particular player? So these were the things, but the common factor was I don't know how people work. That is basically the thing. And that started me to dig in, why do people behave, how they behave? And then I came basically to different types of personalities. So first started with the 16 personalities. This is like the most common thing. I believe everyone in the world and his mom did a 16 personalities test, and then going further into MBTI. And through MBTI, I landed upon action types. And that is basically what I'm now currently certified in, what I really find super intriguing, impactful, and everything to understand personalities, their behaviors, their tendencies, and everything. And that basically, if I was studying that, I felt like, okay, now can I really answer those questions? And not only for other people, but also myself, because, that's how I think and look at the work.
Makes sense, yeah. And so you started understanding people more, or at least their behaviors. And if we then look back at your career as a player, coach, or even the last years as a professional at Next Level Esports, was there a mistake you were constantly making without realizing it? At least that right now?
Of course, I made a lot of mistakes. But let me think of something that took a while for me to really understand.
Was it maybe like with the action types? Like if you would have known that earlier, that you could, I don't know, design your courses or workshops in a different way? Or didn't it impact the workshops?
No, not specifically. I think when I implemented those action types inside, because I could have through profiling the players, I have pretty good immediate results with that. It's not like for sure not flawed, but I'm looking like for a pattern, because I don't like mistakes. If I feel like, okay, this was really awful, I try to prevent that mistake for happening again, and maybe a little bit performance driven in that regard. I think it's healthy. When I maybe it's a little bit difficult, but what I had to learn, let's say what took me a longer time to learn, or you could say a mistake maybe, but it took a long time for me to see the value in structuring your approach. For me, in terms of by nature, I'm more so prone to improvising, more so to being creative, using things and reacting on the spot. So initially with workshops, I just did my thing, had like a little bit of like a structure where I wanted to go, but I didn't thought it out always that well, or in coaching or sometimes, and I felt like, hey, if I structured it even more, a little bit better, it will make a lot of difference, not only for me personally to have more something to hold on to get to be more efficient, right, with aiming towards a goal, but more so for the people involved, because they know what to expect and what to do.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Okay. And if you then look at, like, in your view, what's the most important aspect for a coach to focus on within, like, the current structure? But let's take League of Legends as an example. You have like 3 months of a split of a season where you actually play with your team, and then you have like maybe 2 months of off season where you can scout, sign new players, and prepare like the new roster. And what's then the most important aspect for a coach to focus on during that period?
I believe, I know the way, because I've experienced it. I selected a couple of teams and a lot of players who also with the help of coaches. I think what is really important to understand what you want to build. So I'm not like really a short-term type of person. Everything is long-term. Like whole Next Level Esports is, it's such a big project, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in for the long haul, but many teams are in for the short, results. And we want to have this win right now. We want to do it right now. So there's a friction there, but for me, I think it's very important to understand what type of team you want to build and what kind of organizational and team values you want to basically strive for. So you have an organizational identity. Dynasty was very known for bringing, rookies and upcoming talent, for example, into the scene, and then they transferred to other ones. That was a really clear identity that you could see from the outside, while other teams, sometimes you could not really know. You had Echo Zulu, for example, that was really, meme-like, and, those things. You could relate to that specific persona or something. So having that is, I believe, very important what you're trying to achieve, whether it's short-term success or, long-term success, or you want to contribute to the talent development. So that, I believe, that's very important, because that derives also with what type of people you're looking for. So if you're looking to build up talents, you're not maybe looking for the best skilled player or the highest mechanical, but who's the most coachable, right? So even you would pick a player who's maybe 200 LP lower, but he's so motivated. He's always there. He's always grinding. He's asking a lot of questions. He's really wanting to learn. That is the type of player that you want to have in your talent project, rather than the short term that you would like to give a chance. So I think that is important. And then, before that, I would say for organizations, it's just pick your coach, right? This is next best thing, right? After your own organization, because the coach has so much influence on the team, the whole culture and everything, and the way the culture or the coach behaves or the coach thinks, that will probably be the team they will look at. So the initial things, like to start selecting.
And if you then could design your own approach to a team. Like, imagine you're a coach, or like in the management position, that you can actually like coach the coach, let's say so.
Yeah.
What would be your approach to like starting a new team or a roster in between splits? How would you actually, can you like maybe goal, like 3 or 4 steps. Like I would start with this one, and then I would do this. And do you have any like plan for that you can share with us?
Yeah. So depending, it's an average team, right? First, you want to get very clear on your organizational values and what direction you're choosing, right? So that is, but after that, right? So let's say you're just an average esports team. He wants to win and has his reasons, but wants to get as good as a lineup as possible. So first, you want to select for skill. So some people would say, of course, it's about also personality, yes, but it's a skill that got them there. And then comes the personality. So, if you have a skill but less personality, you can sometimes build on the personality. At least that's my philosophy. And if you have the person correct but not the skill, right, then you're not really getting results. Or, it's very difficult to in 3 months to get that skill up to that level, because it takes so many, even sometimes years or months to improve in some cases. So select them for skill. Fit. Try to look, not specifically like I'm very hyped on personalities and everything, but don't select. Maybe that's something I've learned very quickly. Don't select on personalities. Right, so you don't care if it's if it's colors or disc or like green, blue, purple, rainbow. You don't care. You care for the players, and if you want to look at personality, look for complementary. So that means if someone is very vocal, for example, in the bottom lane, you can, for example, maybe have a more quiet person in the top lane to balance it out. If you have a very aggressive player, you can maybe look for, hey, he's a little bit defensive or preserving player. Not that it can matter, but it can help you think to structure the team already a little bit beforehand. So because when you're selecting players, a lot of players are like equal skill and it's coming through the nitty gritty stuff, like this, and through conversations it's not always very clear. But look at their behavior. Right, the behavior is actually what they put out. And if you have a couple of tryout games, or you hang out with them, or you really got to know them, and also the stories, the referrals, that really helps. Then when you have basically selected the team on skill, and that you feel like, okay, these are complementary already, it's like innate, then you really want to, of course, a lot of teams. It's not a mistake. It's very common to just practice, right? Just play a game and see, and then we build our identity from there, etc. But that takes too much time. It just takes too much. You don't have that luxury time in esports, especially with so many deadlines. And if you're already lucky in a luxury position if you can start your season 2 weeks ahead, right?
That's true.
So you are not in a luxury position to let everything just pan out and feel the room and be whole spiritual, with everything. So you want to basically put boundaries on what the team identity is. So what I also have developed through the steps that I also taken is I built a course through 7 steps to build basically synergy within a team. So you start with your purpose. Why are we this team? Well, we want to be the best underdog team, for example, if you don't have a budget, the best underdog team that the Benelux region or Europe have ever seen, or something like that. And based on that purpose alone, the North Star already, makes or shines a path that makes it a lot more clear how we want to behave and things. Then you make a vision. Okay, how many games do we want to win, or where do we want to go? Then you put goals, milestones, and even targets. And so you can really take the whole team structure apart. And then you have a couple more steps in terms of like strategy. What are the daily tasks? So that's our reviews when we do maybe for example, exercise or chill or play games together or do practice. All of these things you can decide or craft, and to a certain extent. And then my favorite exercise is behind that is making core values with your team, because core values, what it does, it's very detailed. It should be alive in every single interaction in terms of communication and decision making, because it will help you with how you interact with one another on very detailed level and with decision making. Your decision making as a team will go up like 10 times if you get it really clear. So there's a whole exercise to do that, like in about like 2 hours to really discover, and everyone chips in. So a lot of teams would say like, oh, the organizational values are what it's all about, and that's what we want to do. But the organizations make the mistake that new people are coming in. So it's not only their organization. So you have organizational values and you have the team values, and those are different. They need to overlap, like the organizational value, but they are very, in terms of like how we act and behave, very separate.
Yeah.
Of course, they should not be very toxic, or not very toxic, not toxic at all, or anything out of line. But we have to acknowledge that people are different, and every team is so much different with their needs and wants and how they perceive and want to interact with the world and with other people. So every single time you want to do the core value exercise, and then you have a couple of values, and in order to have those values, you design them, or you create them together, or you discover them together. Yeah. But then also you have sub values. Now it sounds very complex, but that basically is like how it would look like. So for example, if you have taking risks, right? In the Netherlands, it's just like, or I like to take risks, or risky. That could be a core value, right? Our team is very risky. We dare to gamble the 50-50. We dare to fight when we could lose as well. But if we get ahead, this is our play style. This is who we want to be. But what does it mean to have, that risky play? You can define the behavior, and through that, then the last step is to connect that to the management and the coaching staff to keep it alive, to basically use those words, the core values and everything, and all of those steps that you did before, all the way back to step 1 with purpose, and use it in your language to keep it alive. So everyone is constantly reminded to why they are there, what they need to do on a single day. So they start breathing and living the team identity.
Yeah.
And that is a quicker build than just like letting it organically. But it needs to be a conscious effort with exercises and everything.
And all those things you just mentioned are able to create within 2 hours.
No, the core values.
Okay.
Step
just
number
the core
6.
values. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So if you guys are watching this, feel like, hey, the core values, that sounds like fun. It's free. You can go to the next level. Just like a shameless plug, Twan. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
But,
we'll even plug your website underneath. So
you can download it. If you're in the Discord of the Next Level Esports, there's a link there with a tab with free stuff, the ebook, and also some quotes and everything. And there's also the free mini course, and the mini course is exactly how you can do that exercise of 2+ hours or something, depends on how you want to organize it. You can do that. You can learn it and apply it literally within 30 minutes if you watch that mini course. It's very powerful. It's my most favorite one, and I get paid to do that, so
it's a quick win for everyone.
It's a valuable thing to understand and to apply in teams.
All right, cool. And as you mentioned, like in your role at Next Level Esports, you came across a lot of people, different action types, different characters, different whatever, a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And if you then look at meeting all those people, are there certain lessons you learned from meeting all those people? And are there like 2 or maybe 3 lessons you could share with us?
Yeah, definitely. You always want to go for complementary. People say, oh, that guy is so different than I am. Mm-hmm. And then it's not different. You are complementary. It's a different mindset, right? It's like water and fire. It's like, oh, that doesn't work. It could actually work if you know how water and fire actually works. If you would really be interested, or not interested, but invested in learning about the other person, you will quickly discover how useful they are, because no one stands up or wakes up in the early morning and then feels like, oh, let me just find chaos and confusion within my team today. No one does it. Everyone, in terms of like maybe the 0.1% excluded, but 99.9% of the people have good intentions about, what they do. And some people are like, oh, laughing, but no. Right? You already see, everyone has conflicts now and then with people that don't agree with them because you think differently, but it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. You could be both right. Right? And so look for complementary. So that is one. The second lesson is, if you have people with the same personality or the same tendencies, that is very easy to get started with, because it feels like, oh, we're so much alike.
Yeah.
But as you progress with the team, you quickly will fall into the same traps over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So that is also a big thing. And I believe the last one, just like more like an interesting thing, what I've seen through the patterns and everything, that literally certain, which is quite obvious, but certain personality profiles or action types prefer certain roles. So you can see from the behavior, how they play, how they basically pilot their character, a lot about their personality and everything.
Yeah.
So it's very subtle, but if you know what to look for, you can really predict more behavior and make connections. That helps.
About the first lesson, like you mentioned, look for complementary, right? Do you think like esports organizations or teams do actually have the time to look for those points, or how should they look or start looking for complementary? Because we just talked about like maybe only 2 months or maybe even 1.5 months to actually start building a new roster or looking for a new staff member. How can you start looking for those things?
Yeah, I believe we touched upon it a couple of minutes ago. It's like if someone is really vocal in the bottom lane, you find a more quiet top laner, right? To be complementary. If someone is very creative in their picks or plays, or is very flexible, you can also complement it with someone who's very stable, who has a solid champion pool, who doesn't do crazy stuff, who just wants to perform, wants to be consistent, right? You need those crazy outliers sometimes, those risk takers that are the playmakers, because if it's only consistent, your gameplay becomes predictable. Yeah. So it's like the fine balance of the formula of the team, right? To brew something special, and that happens inside the team while they play.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, okay. And if you then look at your courses at Next Level Esports, you said you're working worldwide, basically. And if we then take a closer look at just the Netherlands or maybe the Benelux scene, especially at coaches, are there like any trends or developments that you observe from your experience and expertise? Like what are the trends and developments within the Netherlands or the Benelux scene, especially looking for coaches?
Well, I wouldn't say there is much of a trend going on from what I've heard or the people that I talk to. And I wish there were developments.
Okay.
Maybe it's a little bit of a cheeky statement, and maybe some coaches feel called out. But
explain. I mean, I like it.
I feel like a lot of coaches, right? Let me explain this, right? I don't fully blame them alone. What is going on, basically, since I started coaching, is that no one understands really what a coach does or how it can contribute. So they look at their friends or their neighbors and they coach in a certain way. So they copy that coaching. And then if they are similar at that level or, have the game knowledge, they feel like, I'm a proper coach. And if they maybe get a first place, or maybe, you know, are in the scene already for 2, 3, 4 years. They feel like, yeah, I'm an experienced coach. If you compare that to a football coach, right, who would coach like a Eredivisie, like the Premier League, let's say, or the football in the Netherlands, and he would coach PSV or Ajax or Feyenoord with 4 years of experience, would anyone take them seriously, right? So maybe in esports perspective, it's, you know, decent, or, you know, you're getting somewhere. But in the perspective of like, what do you actually know about coaching, right? You got experience, but a lot of coaches only have 1 year experience, 1 year of experience times 4 years. They do the same thing over and over again. They tweak something. They never did a certification. They don't look up a lot. And some coaches, they do message me and they reach out and feel like, hey, I saw you have a course, or I want to go international, or I want to develop as myself. Already, you know, that they are asking or looking for stuff, they will be ahead of anyone else who doesn't develop. It's the same as for players, but coaches, they don't have an urge because no one knows how to structure it. And so the coaches who actually know how to coach or delve into it, they are ahead of the curve, and they are quick ahead of the curve.
And do you then see any developments about that? About like coaches from, let's say, Dutch coaches or coaches from the Benelux? Are they starting to reach out to you? Are they trying to develop themselves as far as you notice?
I would hope for more, not business-wise, but more to professionalize.
Yeah.
So there has been some initiatives which was positively taken into, like in the Dutch esports scene, which I really like and also enjoyed, and they found it interesting. But you know, it's difficult, right? They want to go pro, and they get maybe like if they are decent between 200 and 500, you know, if they are around and they got some experience, 200 to 500 euros, and you know, I can pay a part of my rent from that and everything. But you know, if you compare it to, you know, a grown-up's job, you know, it's something you can basically earn in a week, or maybe sometimes a day, depending on what work you do. So it's not a lot. So what I would suggest is to sometimes, you know, get off your high horse that you know, it sometimes feels like very direct, but I feel like it's more so the truth. Get off your high horse and understand in a perspective of the world and economy and everything where you stand, and feel like, okay, do I want to take this as a hobby? And if you want to do it as a hobby and you just want to do it your way, great stuff, you know, more power to you. But I also know coaches that, you know, trying to get LEC level, trying to get, you know, EU Masters every single time, and you know, they basically butting their head against the wall every single time, trying for the wall to break, instead of, you know, getting back, building a hammer, and then going back, getting a drill, then going back and getting a full tractor to bash through the wall to actually reach those goals. And basically equipping yourself with tools and everything to break through those walls to get there, right? It's sometimes a tedious process, but if you get a few things right, you already see a big difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if we then start looking at coaches, or like the scrim sessions they do within the League of Legends team, can you like describe how scrims are like in the traditional way, like with the coaches without actually developing themselves with courses or workshops, or how are they trying to like host a scrim in the traditional way?
The traditional way is basically, okay, guys, let's look at the game. So here, you know, this went wrong. This went wrong, and here, you know, we gotta play next time, and then usually they go into very minute detail. Right, so it's not attached to any system, not attached to any macro play or at all. Right, just like the full classic VOD review, and then a discussion starts because there's so many opinions on how it should play. Or should I flash here? Should I use my Q? Should I do this?
Yeah.
Okay, it's very interesting to think about all of those things, but when is the next time a precise situation like that will happen in League of Legends? Probably the chances are 0.1%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're too much discussing the details because there is not a system in place to attach a value on the situation. Whether was it a good performance? For example, if the goal of the practice, scrim, or training was to scale, you just like an easy example. So you want to take resources, you want to take levels, and maybe try to maximize your scaling ability. Mm-hmm. So if a play was made, right, that is not in line with that tactic, right, even though it went well or not, that should be called out by the coach.
Yeah.
And like that, a lot of other things. So you bring structure to your practices and training, and that is basically what I've witnessed over and over that is lacking. And there's so much time spent and wasted on minute details that really don't matter because there's no structure, no system, no idea behind what we're actually doing. And a lot of negativity, a lot of focus on what is going wrong and forgetful about what is actually going right.
So if you then, like, you just said, like, this is how the scrims normally go. And if we then look at, like, a little things about, okay, a scrim should go like this way, then it's like, one, look at the actual game plan, like, or maybe the team identity, I would say then. What happened during this play or this game? And how does that impact our identity or play style or agreement we made for this game? And then two is start talking about the positive, the things that happened in a positive way. And then look back at the structure or like game plan you made for the scrim. Am I correct?
Yeah, right. For sure. When you think back, and I'm sure a lot of coaches are thinking like, but how much positivity should I bring in, in a VOD review or in a scrim? I think the bigger, in terms of like positive psychology and coaching, the biggest pitfall is coaches or players take good stuff for granted. They take that stuff for granted. Yeah, they should play well. Of course they should push the lane. Of course they should, rotate and everything. Why mention it? I told them how to play, then they play that way. Like, what is there, no, that's not how it worked. If you only point out the negative stuff, right, they remember that, but you also want to remind them even more about the stuff that they do well. Because that will ingrain into their pattern, like, hey, I want to reproduce this specific thing as well. This was the differentiator that I went top lane or to Baron or make that call that make us or
make the game way easier.
Make the game easier, or at least gave us a chance to fight back, even though we lost. Yeah. But those are the moments you really want to also hammer down. And that's difficult because we're not wired that way. Our brain is wired for negativity, but if you do it in a different way, your outcomes and your players will like you even more. They will start to play better, honestly. Yeah, okay. They will start to play better. They feel better.
So if you're a coach or even willing to coach, take notes.
Yeah.
And if we then, like, maybe people are watching or listening, are aspiring to be a coach, like, what would be then 3 tips from your side? Like, if you are willing to be a coach, start with these 3 things, and then you will be like starting on a higher level as a coach than if you don't use these 3 tips. Do you have like 3 tips about, okay, start this way?
Yeah. So I think the first one is a mindset one. So what I talk about in also masterclasses, courses and everything is about being humble. So humble is the solution for a high ego and a low ego. So this applies to coaches that are players, that want to become a coach, coaches that just started, but also coaches who are already, earning a full-time paycheck basically, or at LEC and want to do better, right? Or want to perform even more, or keep their that head start, or even prolong it, right? So stretch their length. So it's about being humble, because being humble means constantly reminding yourself of like, okay, if you have a low ego, like, oh, I'm not sure if I can do this, it's like, I don't know things, right? Still, right now. And at the same time, I already do know things that I have to move into action, or that I can learn this. It's not there yet. So I can feel, I can experiment, right? And I can try things, and I can develop myself, and that keeps you humble. And that basically increases your ego, basically, to go out there and take action. If you are, for example, in the high end of ego, and you also be humble, it means like, I can do a lot of things already, but I also have always something extra to learn. So that lowers your ego down to a nice balanced level where you can basically, yes, push through while still learning the things you want to learn to stay ahead, basically, of the game. So that is one thing. The second thing is, I would say, just get information, but now it's not like get information. So I would, of course, recommend to apply for an esports coaching course through Next Level Esports, because the thing that I do is I make everything practical, and that means it's not only information, it's transformation. I don't care about information. Information is free. Transformation, that is what you're paying for. You want to change your behaviors, you want to change your ideas, and the only way you can transform your behaviors is to act differently, and to start acting differently now with different ideas, different perspectives, and all those things. And if you can learn different perspectives, get practical exercises to actually, be more positive. What sentences can I say? On what moments can I say? How do I deal with egotistical players? And how do I deal with these low ego players? How do I do a VOD review? How do I do all of these things? There are always things to improve. And if you learn things and apply them, that you see immediate effects, you will never look back, and you'll be thinking, why did I not do this for this low amount of money that is actually worth it, that can boost my career so much more. So that is the thing. So that is the second thing. So that is transforming. That is what you can do on yourself, by yourself. And the third is, I would say, keep thinking. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's maybe a little bit bigger than just one, but keep thinking on your own. Don't just follow everyone around you, what they are doing, or for the hell of it, even not only what I am saying, but keep thinking about your own ideas, right? Because sometimes your ideas are very much worth it, right? That is, I believe, one of the biggest differentiators between good coaches and I would say maybe coaches that are not adapting. The good thing is, or compared to football stayed the same for since forever. Right?
Yeah.
In esports, you have updates, you have patches and everything. So every time you can use your innovation, the one who adapts first usually wins if you have this crazy meta pick, right? Or this crazy combo, or you figure something out. So what I would suggest is to learn from others, and also to learn from yourself, and to experiment. So the way I see this is you basically copy the work of others, or try to imitate the work of others if you want to catch up with their level. So pick your mentors and pick your heroes or role models well. Model their behavior, model their things that align with your values and your behavior. Then, if you want to stay ahead of competition, you cannot look for someone else. you need to be innovative. You need to come up with those crazy drafts. You need to come up with a different way to approach the selection process of finding talents for your low budget team, right? To still keep winning it every single time, on top of your transformational skills and your mindset of being humble. So I would say those 3 are pretty solid. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. I mean, I think by hearing those things, it sounds really, really logical to me, to be honest. But I think from being a coach or trying to start thinking about, hey, I want to be a coach, you don't start thinking about those things. Mostly like, how much game knowledge do I have? And how can I implement my game knowledge in a team and start creating more game knowledge within the team and then see if they can perform better. That's how I see the most coaches or people think about coaching.
Yeah. I there's a good point that you brought up, right? Or basically all coaches, or not all coaches. I know also people who are more on the human side. But most of the coaches are very obsessed with the game, with the technicalities, the strategies, the tactics, the items and everything. If you're only interested in the game, you should become an analyst, because then the whole game is objective. You know, if you were talking about League of Legends, LS, amazing, phenomenal analyst.
Yeah.
But he's not a coach, because a coach needs to unwind and discover and uncover the intricacies of the subjectivity of the people. Why a player chose for a particular action, because, I don't know, he had a bad day, he had a perfect day, or he slept well, he didn't sleep well. All of those factors you need to also dial in as a coach. And then also, what I highly recommend and what I will see, this is my prediction for the future. Currently, there are only coaches in esports. But when you look at traditional sports, you have trainers and you have coaches. What I recommend is for coaches to learn how to train. Currently, many coaches are only coaching the game, so trying to get the best out of the player. Training is about how to get the best inside the player, so more drill-like exercises, right? Getting certain specific things up, thinking about how to approach certain mechanics and practice those in the different ways with variety and everything, instead of just grinding the scrims over and over again and trying to play the game and then review to see, hey, what can we do? But actually work on specific skills.
Okay.
So I see that as a...
That's a hot take, I would say.
Why a hot take? The future prediction?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I carry it. It will be.
Okay. We'll see. Well, it's now on screen, right? So
it's now on screen.
Yeah. And if we then like look at all your experience, and we've been talking a lot about how to start as a coach or how to develop yourself as a coach, and how to start understanding people within your team. Would there be anything from your point of view you'd like to share with the people that are listening or watching us?
Anything, yeah. Oh, so many stuff to share, but I would say do some introspection, right? It doesn't matter where you are in terms of your level, your skill, your ambitions, but you want to ask yourself, do my actions align with my ambitions? So this is not only for coaches, but basically, you know, I would say advice isn't worth anything, but isn't worth anything. So do your actions align with your ambitions? Because a lot of people say, oh, I want to go to LEC, but then, you know, stay up late, grind games or whatever, or coaches also grinding games late at night, having no social life at all. And what are you actually doing, right? Are you just here consuming and, you know, enjoying esports as a hobby? What are you actually doing? And it's a serious question, because sometimes I feel like everyone is just talking too nicely, you know, about one another and about esports, so that they don't want to hurt or offend someone. But I really feel like if you have ambitions, step up your fucking game. Let's show the world, be there on social media, show what you can do, create those videos. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, but will you regret it if you didn't do it after a couple of years? If so, then you have work cut out for you. Then you have to do. So this is not maybe a motivational speech or advice for everyone, but more so maybe for the top 10% who really wants to make it in esports.
Yeah.
Who wants to go to the next level, right? Hey.
Oh, that's a deep one. All right. Well, looking at the time, it's time for us to end our talk. I really enjoyed it. You hinted to your courses at Next Level Esports. If people have questions, how can they reach you?
Yeah, through Discord is I believe the easiest. Is Donny Next Level Esports, so easy, all connected. Also, I would say if you got questions or just want to hang out in terms of like with other coaches, I have a Discord server with 450 plus esports coaches from the world across the globe, and very supportive community. So if you have any challenges, questions, or anything, I will be always there answering. And also other coaches who can supply their perspectives as well. And that has proven to be very useful. So that is for free. Also a lot of free stuff, the ebook, the quotes for inspiration, the ebook and everything. There's a lot of content, hours upon hours, that is free on YouTube. It's currently maybe in some cases a little bit outdated how it looks. Because the content that I'm making is a little bit different now. But the content itself, what I'm talking about, still stands as a rock and is really valuable. So watch those videos, listen to the podcast and everything, and reach your next level. And that's all for free, basically. And if you then feel like, okay, I want to learn how to position myself, I want to learn how to improve and really go to the next level within a year and make really plans and a change and transformation, then go for the program. That will be great.
All right. Thank you very much, Donny. Thank you for the lessons you've learned us. I've learned a lot today again. Thank
Awesome.
you thanks again for being here. And for all the listeners, thank you for listening to us again. Make sure to like, to subscribe, to not miss any podcast from us, and hope to see you next time again.